This video is going to look at the week 4 part of population. This is like part 2 of population. We've already looked at things like birth rates, death rates, natural increase, but this looks at migration, density and distribution. This is important because when we're looking at population change, you don't just look at birth rates and death rates, you need to look at immigration and emigration. So with regards to migration, if you look at the notes relating to this, so you click on it, what we see is population distribution. This is where people are spread over the surface of the earth. This might be useful when describing your country. In the introduction you talk about distribution. Where are people? So it's the pattern of people over the Earth's surface, and this can affect what's termed the population density, which you may also want to talk about. And so distribution is where people are spread out over the surface. Population density is a measurement of the number of people per square measurement, like square mile, square kilometre, that sort of thing. Okay, so if you go through these notes, what you might want to do is look at some of the factors that have influenced population distribution, and you can apply this to your country. For example, if we go down some of the physical factors, what in your country is physically affecting the distribution of population? Is it things like mountains, flat plains? Is it things like the types of soil, the climate? So you may want to introduce some of these things because it may be useful when explaining where people are in your country, explaining the density. Okay, so you've got the physical factors that influence. The rivers, rivers can be used for basically trade, but also to sustain life. But also alongside rivers is often very flat plains, very fertile land. So make sure you go through this. And then there's human factors. Okay, things like, you've got economic forces, what sort of resources are there, what sort of levels of education are in an area, what sort of industries are in an area. Okay, so those sort of things. Or it may even be political decisions. For example, you might have like planning, or it may have been wars in certain areas. Or historical factors. It might be something that has led to a development of a settlement, and from that original site you've had a settlement or town expand, or a city expand. It might be, for example, initial site was due to it being high up and used for defence, or it might have been a crossing point on a river. An example would be Oxford, where oxes were taken across a river. Or it may be Cambridge, where you had a bridging point on a river. So there's a number of different things which lead to the formation of settlements. Okay, so that's the distribution. You can use that on the introduction to your paper. Then there is population density. This is the measurement of the number of people in a specific area. Now if we look, we've got a very large concentration of people. If you look, you see there's a very distinct concentration of people here, and the reason why, we have the river Ganges and lots of people surviving due to that river, along that river plain. Factors affecting density, again, you've got things, relief, or the shape and height of land. Like I said, lowlands, which is flat, Ganges, or you've got low density in high mountains. So you can use these to describe the structure of your population. Okay, there's a number of different things. Then we get into the next pattern. Where are people moving? So you've got distribution, where people are, you've got density, a measurement, and then migration. How is it changing? People do not stay in the same place. There's a lot of migration. You get things like internal migration within a country, and this is going to affect things like density, but it's also going to affect distribution. You also get international migration, which is from one country to another, and this can influence not just the distribution and density, but also the total number within your country. And there's two other variations of migration. What's happening in your country? You have voluntary migration, where people choose to move. The reason why they choose to move may be for a better lifestyle or a more appropriate lifestyle, or it might be forced migration, things like they have to move because of things like war, or it might be overpopulation of an area. You know, soil has been exhausted. It may be people have to move because of disease in an area, natural disasters, environmental disasters, like for example Chernobyl, these sort of things. So we have migration. You want to look at where are people coming into your country, where are people moving between your country. Okay, so you look at migration, that's another area. We also have what's termed push factors, and these are factors which people look at and use as a decision to leave an area. What's bad about an area? These can be both real or perceived. And the pull factors, where do people want to go? What's good? What's the opportunities in those areas? And this again can be real or perceived. Okay, so these are some of the things that you want to look at. Migration is important. Okay, distribution, density, include all of these in your paper. So read through these notes and then go back, look at an area relating to managing the population. This is another sort of like useful sort of area where we look at terms of overpopulation, underpopulation, and some of the problems relating to this. What you want to do is look at some of these and maybe apply them to your country. Okay, and you go back. There's also in this section, there's also useful article relating to population and sustainability. Read through this, see if any of it relates to your country. It's a significant article, so make sure you read this. And in addition, what we can say, there is also a useful video relating to population mapping. Okay, so if you want to watch this video, it's by The Economist. It is a useful tool. Okay, it explains about population.
Has doubled in just 4 decades.
And once you've done that, all these things that can be, take some ideas for your report from it. Once you've done that, also look at overpopulation notes. Okay, talks about overpopulation, talks about Thomas Malthus and some of the ideas relating to population. It talks about exponential growth and arithmetic growth or linear growth, in which population is growing exponentially, however food supply is growing in a linear way. So at some point we will become overpopulated. Okay, so it's another thing to look at. In addition, what you can say, there's also a video relating to overpopulation. So once you've done that, what I would say is go back and focus on your paper. In week 4, there is no discussion, because I want you to be finalizing your paper, because it's not long before the submission. I will also open up week 5's notes, which looks at the urban environment. This is where you have, it's almost like a bridging lesson. It talks about urbanization and the growth of cities, but also it'll start to talk about the problems of cities, the environmental problems. So we're going to start to move away from population and more into some of the environmental problems that are faced. We're going to look at urban sprawl. Also, the advantages and disadvantages of cities. And then we get up to test 2. Okay, so what I need you to do is focus on getting your report completed. Okay, if you have any problems, again, either email me or go to the general concerns. Okay.